Ian from In 30 Minutes Guides. Today I'm going to be talking about 529 plans for college savings. If this video helps, please take a moment to like it and follow me. Let's get started. So basically, I'm going to outline what 529 plans are using the IRS website, the Vanguard website, and then also an example from University of Massachusetts, which kind of explains how this money can be used to save for college for your kids. If you go to the IRS website, they don't call them 529 plans, they call them qualified tuition programs. But the concept is the same. They're run on the state level. And the idea is you put money in, you contribute money to these plans, which have a named beneficiary, that's usually a child. And then the money grows in the 529 plan. And when you withdraw the money, you don't pay taxes on the earnings as long as the money is used for qualified educational expenses. As the IRS website says, earnings accumulate tax-free while they're in the account, and the beneficiary generally doesn't have to include the earnings from a 529 plan as income. Furthermore, some states actually let you deduct the contributions on your state income tax, not on the federal income tax. But it's a really good plan. We use them for our own kids, and also relatives can use them for your kids too. So, for instance, if grandparents want to contribute to the kids' college fund, they can do it using a 529 plan that they set up. A couple things that you have to understand when you're doing a 529 plan, and that is there's no guarantee that your 529 plan will grow. Although generally over time, the stock market goes up, and 529 plans are basically made up of mutual funds and certain other types of funds that are invested in the stock market. But over time, these have generally grown. Sometimes there's a dip, and I've experienced a dip once where the amount that was available to me was less than the amount I had contributed, so that wasn't a great feeling. But generally over time, these do grow. And actually, let's just do a quick example of how it might work. So let's say that I have a child and she's 8 years old, and I decide to contribute $5,000 to a 529 plan in her name. So this is after tax contribution. I put the $5,000 in the plan, and basically I don't have to do anything else with it. The way that a lot of these, like Vanguard or Fidelity, the way that these are set up is like you put the $5,000 into the plan. It's a target enrollment portfolio, so they basically take care of everything. They invest it. It's usually will just start generating income over time. And let's go back to the $5,000. So starting when she's 18, we need to take money out of this 529 plan to pay for her educational expenses. So let's just assume that it grows on average 5% every year over the next 10 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it in as growing 5% every year. So when she's 9 years old, it's worth 5,250. 10 years old, 5,512. 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old. So by the time she's 18, the $5,000 I put in is now worth $8,145, which is pretty good. That's better than the $5,000 I started with. It won't cover all of the expenses, but it certainly goes a long way to covering the expenses for her first year. And if you go to most universities, legitimate universities, a cost of attendance page, and just search for the university name and cost of attendance, it will show what qualifying expenses are expected for that particular university. So, for instance, in-state undergraduate dependent student full-time. So, for my 18-year-old, this is how it would apply. So it breaks everything out. So if it's living with parents, the tuition will be $14,542, and then it goes down, has the fees, housing, food, books, transportation, loan fees, personal, and miscellaneous. So the total cost of attendance for her at this particular state school would be $22,338. So basically, $8,144 is covered by that money that I put in 10 years before for that 1 year, and then the remaining amount, so $22,000 minus $8,000, so that's like $14,000. We'd have to come up with another way to pay for it, whether it's a student loan or something else. Now, keep in mind that if there's an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent who wants to also contribute money to a 529 plan, they can set one up on their own and naming the child as the beneficiary. So this is a very common situation, and it's another way to help save money for your child's education. And you may be wondering, well, what happens if the child decides not to go to college? So, these numbers are not relevant to her because let's say she's decided to, join the army or something like that. The money can be used for other children. You can actually change the beneficiary. So if you have another child who will be going to college 5 years later, you can transfer it to that person's make that person the beneficiary. The other thing you can keep in mind is maybe the child doesn't want to go to school now, but they will later on. Maybe they'll go to graduate school later on, or maybe they'll do college later in life, and that's perfectly okay too. So 529 plans, they're the pretty solid way to save for college in the United States. Unfortunately, college, as you know, is super expensive, and it's been rising faster than the cost of inflation. But this is one way that middle class people can hopefully put some money away for their kids' education, so they won't be paying full freight out of pocket when the time comes to start paying tuition bills. My name is Ian Lamont. I'm the founder of In 30 Minutes Guides. If you go to in30minutes.com, you can see all of the books that we have related to different topics, including technology. We do have a book on personal finance for beginners. We have another one on Social Security, Twitter, LinkedIn, health topics, etc. This is Ian. Thank you so much for watching.